So we thought it would be a little fun to share just a little bit of a little snapshot of our lives.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of you know this about us, but I was raised in a preacher's home and I married a man who was called into the ministry. Thus, I had preacher's kids. So my kids are not only preacher's kids, but they're grandkids of preachers because both my father and my father-in-law were preachers.
Yeah.
So,
PK squared
yes.
at this point.
Yeah.
Double generation of being a pastor's kid.
So
Raised by pastors.
we have a unique perspective on ministry and church, which really is going to lend to a lot of our conversations about religious trauma and so many things. But we just thought it would be funny. I mean, this podcast is not for preachers' kids. We want preachers' kids to listen to us. We have a heart for them. And I think it would be so fun to have like a little preacher's kid get together and, maybe have Brandon call us.
Brandon Lake.
Phil Wickham, have some of these that were raised in the church and just us get together because we have a special take on ministry and life.
Oh, church.
Yes.
Church.
Yeah.
I looked up a list of different things that you could relate to as a pastor's kid.
Okay.
Should we start with the funny things or the not so funny things?
We have a tendency to go serious.
I know.
And whenever we're discussing what we're discussing. So yeah, let's start funny.
Let's start funny. Then we can end in trauma.
Okay. Great.
So you're a pastor's kid when, that's what all this list is about.
Okay.
You're a pastor's kid when you can fall asleep during a sermon but wake up exactly when your name is mentioned.
Yeah,
Oh
that's a good one.
Yes.
Growing up, it's funny because I just have so many funny stories. But I have a younger brother, and he was usually the one that was the stories in church. I can remember we were really young. It was my dad's first ministry. My brother maybe was 5. I don't even know. And my dad is waxing eloquent. Apparently my brother thought, this is it, I'm done. And he was in the back. I don't know if he went to go to the restroom or what. He turned the lights to the church.
And we're closed on shop. That's enough for you. Lights out. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, I am the story child.
Yeah, you are.
Out of my sister and I am the one that tends to be my name being called from the pulpit.
To this day.
To this day.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm never going to live down some of these stories when I was 4. I can't chain me. I wasn't even cognizant. I can't claim that as my own work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still calls me out.
Yeah.
He always says that I was a challenge to his soul, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so totally can relate to that.
Yes.
You're a pastor's kid when you know at least 3 different versions of your parents' closing prayer. Now, I don't think that Dad has closing prayers, but I do have a list of his sayings.
Yes, I think every preacher's kid knows things that their dad says.
It's a catchphrase.
Right. Or stories, especially if you have a father that goes around to different churches. He's not at one church all the time. He'll tell the same stories. Even still, they'll repeat stories and you're like, I've heard that one before.
Right. I always felt so bad for the missionary kids. I feel like missionary kids is a whole other level.
Oh,
because you go to churches and you hear your father say probably like the same message.
And you're like, snore.
Snore. It wasn't that great the first time.
Oh, Dad, you're sick. I can feel it because I know you're sorry.
Word for word at this point. No, I know. Dad always says, folks. That's one of the things he always says. He says, to the next generation. Anytime, he's kind of like Michael Scott whenever he starts a sentence. And you're like, does he know where it's going? And he goes, to the next generation.
Right.
And so we got to spread God's word to the next generation. Just to be a catchphrase. We've perfected the holy nod during adult conversations. At the same time. I know. It's always it's always with the eyebrows.
Yeah.
You have to open your mouth a little bit like, ah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the holy nod. If you didn't know, that's the holy nod. Oh, you've heard, we're praying for you in both sweet and slightly suspicious tones. That's not funny.
That's not funny.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's religious trauma.
Yeah. The
Next.
things that people say to you and
Bless your heart.
yeah, and criticisms that they say it so positively. You're like, that was backhanded.
I know. The body shaming I experienced the most was in church.
Which is so
Oof.
horrible.
Next.
Yeah.
Speaking of body shaming, you know you're a pastor's kid when potlucks feel like a competitive sport.
Oh my word.
Yeah. I mean, there is a little bit, I think olden days, there was a little bit of a competition of like,
More so.
my mashed potatoes are more buttery than hers.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I don't think present day circumstances, there are some people that, oh, Pastor, have you had this slice of cake or have you had, but a lot of people will bring store-bought foods or fried chicken from somewhere.
And I will tell you, I have witnessed many a time my dad going, hey, and then he puts his napkin over and he says, Braylon, go throw that away. But I will say,
church potlucks are frightening.
I was about to say that. I was like, I will say, we said the same thing.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't trust people's kitchens.
Have you seen some of those Instagrams of people that film things that they're preparing for church and their cats walking all over?
No, I know that.
I've had dreams about that.
No, you haven't.
Yes.
Of course you have, you little germaphobe. No, I know we're all covered by the grace of God, but some people are covered in germs.
Yeah. Their germs are not like everybody
And-
else's.
I love you as a brother, sister in Christ, but I will not eat your casserole. I will not.
Yeah.
Let's see what it is. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, you automatically check if your outfit is church appropriate, even at Target.
Yeah.
I remember many times as a kid, especially as the preacher's kid, like if my shorts were above the knee, how high were they above the knee?
Yeah.
Because
Was
then,
it too tight?
yes, because then other kids would feel that it was freelance
Oh, yeah.
to wear the skinny jeans of Satan.
You know, right.
Oh,
Yes.
let's see what else. You know, you're a preacher's kid when you've been volunteered for something without being asked.
Yeah. Very true.
That's
You
your
feel
life.
You fill in all the little gaps. Oh, somebody needs to clean the toilets. All right.
Yeah.
Change the toilet paper. Who knows how to change out the paper towel holder? Oh, the preacher's kid does.
Oh, they just let them do
You
that.
need
They
to
don't-
fill in for Sunday school. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
how many roles do you wear on Sundays? You do a Bible study, you run the PowerPoint,
projector.
and you also do the sound system.
Oh, I saw. Okay. Yes. You know how to stack chairs, run slides,
Yeah.
babysit, greet, clean up, and smile on cue.
That's true.
That is
Yep.
the definition.
Get on the piano. I remember somebody talking about we were candidating at a church, if I remember correctly. And they wanted to know if I knew how to play the piano. Every good preacher's wife knows how to play the piano.
Yeah.
Thanks the Lord that my parents invested in that as a child. But yes,
They were making you preacher's wife material. And you
they
didn't even
were.
know it.
I did not know.
Every little move. Keys. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a special. Oh, we need you to sing a special this
The
morning.
amount of times I remember as a kid, and Dad would pull out this little stool, and I would stand on, and my sister would be there, and Dad, and we would
Yeah.
sing, and
Yeah.
all of the roles that we have done. And it's like, you know, you talk about we didn't volunteer for that. We didn't volunteer to be preacher's kids.
No, you didn't.
I did not sign up for that.
You were born into it, baby.
I was born into it. Yeah. Like, but that is the thing. Service.
Yeah. Yes.
Service. The life of a preacher's kid, the life of a person in ministry, period. If you're raised in church,
Yeah.
and your parents are actively serving, you learn what service is.
Yes.
And service has to be taught.
Yeah, it does.
Service has to
It
be
does.
taught. You know, a lot of church work helps you in customer service whenever you get outside of the church.
Totally.
You go above and beyond for people.
Yes.
You
Yes.
do. And it helps you have a perspective that's not of yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of selflessness. I mean, that can go to an unhealthy state too.
It sure can.
But
Because you don't know boundaries. And I think one of the hardest things,
Mhm.
as a preacher's kid, I think it's easier to say no to some things and be like, I am not going to do that. But as a pastor's wife,
Mhm.
and to have boundaries and to say, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's unpopular.
It's okay. It's really okay. But it's hard.
It is. And then people's expectations. I think this is when we're starting to get into the serious part.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't afford to be deep, a deep dive. Should I say a few more that are funny and then
Yes,
talk
let's
about
do that.
Okay. Just to help us breathe. Oh, you know that quick meetings are rarely quick.
Yeah.
Those are the type of things that usually have to do with you're sitting waiting around while your dad or your mom's praying with someone.
At the end of a service, and you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh."
I just want
Yeah,
to
and
my
there's
lunch.
certain people that you know that you're like, please, let's get out of there before they get to him. Isn't that terrible?
I know
That's
he's
so,
going through things, but my stomach's growling.
that's so terrible.
But especially as a kid.
Yeah. It's so I remember
Oh.
times, I mean, there was one portion of my dad's ministry where we were commuting like 45 minutes to the church.
Mhm.
And so then we were stuck.
Oh wow.
And so I remember mom would take crock pots of food and set it up in the office so we could have our Sunday afternoon lunch, and we'd take a nap at the church and go to this evening service.
No.
Yeah.
Evening services.
Yeah.
Oh,
Every good Christian has an evening service.
Oh.
Do not be disrespectful.
as a child, evening services. And then it was the nap. Okay, you know you were a preacher's kid if you were forced to take what dad would call a Baptist nap.
Yeah.
You know, because as a 6 and 7-year-old, I was going to lose my mind.
And we'd be like, at least go in your room and be quiet.
Reflect, meditate on the things the Lord has done today. Honor the Sabbath. Keep it holy. And I'm like twisting like every single angle of my bed just to see if I can get a different perspective of my room because I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually I'd start taking like a Barbie into my bed or something so I could just talk or something, you know, because it drove me nuts. And here's another one that I think is hilarious. Your childhood photos include at least one Easter with matching outfits.
Yeah, that's funny.
It really makes me think of you. You would always dress Brooke and myself. We didn't always match, but sometimes we did.
It would be similar.
Very similar things. We'd have a little bow in our hair, and our hair would be curled, and we'd be sitting there at the steps just cheesing.
Yes.
You know, just the most cringy Easter cheesing.
Yeah.
Oh, but religious trauma.
Fun times.
Yeah, fun times. Religious trauma. I think this is also part of it. And I go over this part because I think that this informs also our background and our trepidation in doing this.
I would totally agree with that. And I don't know that it ever really dawned on me that was a big part of why you and I, especially being introverts, were very, what's the word? Stoic.
Yeah, I've been called that. I've been called cold.
Yeah.
I've been called snobby.
Yeah.
I've been called
Me too.
rude. And I didn't even say anything.
But that was the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think being a part of the preacher's family, you set yourself up for being someone else's projection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people cast their own judgments and even their own conviction onto you
Yes.
because you are a symbol of God to them
Yes.
that they want to mock
Yeah.
and tear down.
Yeah.
And it really can create a defensive.
Yeah.
Like you sense yourself then having compassion fatigue, having a sense of bitterness, having a sense of resentment for your own congregation because you feel judgment.
Yeah.
And so then you become isolating and you try to protect yourself or protect your family.
Yes. I will say that the last maybe 5 years, I felt free from that.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes.
I mean, there was a certain element of people we ministered to that you knew they were targeting you, if you will, picking apart everything you did, said, wore, and you just were walking on eggshells all the time because what am I going to do now? What am I going to say now? How am I not going to say the right thing? I'm not going to approach them and hug all over that, all the stuff. It just every little thing you get judged for. And now I don't feel that. And there's this freedom. It's
Yeah.
so amazing
It's,
to just be who you are.
it's nice to have freedom in the fishbowl,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yes.
because it really does feel that way. I think as a kid, I didn't understand what it really was making me feel.
Yeah.
But as a child, I got judged a lot
Yeah.
and I got blamed a lot for things that I didn't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kids lying about me
Yeah.
because they thought if I did something, then they could justify themselves and I became
Yes.
the target.
Yeah.
I mean, all the times that then I was compared to how I should be.
Hmm.
And it was really because people didn't want to hear my thoughts and feelings. So I was shut down a lot. I mean, it's tough.
It is tough.
This is on this part. You feel pressured to be good, even when you're just trying to be a normal kid.
Yeah.
I think that's where that fear of trying to be perfect comes from. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Don't give them anything to criticize you about.
Yeah. You can't say anything if I'm perfect,
Yeah. You're right.
right?
You're
I
right.
mean, I'm going to be pulling my hair out trying to be perfect, but at least you don't know,
Exactly.
right? And it's honestly, I think God has really been trying to shed that. I still feel that fear sometimes because I've experienced real judgment.
Mhm.
Um, but I think whenever you're able to go, it's not about being perfect. It's just about, am I walking in what God has for me?
Exactly. I think that's a maturity that you get to in your walk with the Lord that you know what people are always going to criticize, but if I know what I'm doing is pleasing God,
Right.
if in my heart I'm really purposing to please him.
Yeah. And I don't see that at all like a self righteousness.
No,
You know, I
not at
like,
all. It's a freedom that comes
yeah.
whenever you're not and the Bible talks about fear of man. And
Yeah.
that's really what we're talking about is fear of man
Mhm.
and his judgment and his criticisms. You're always going to have it in life. So, yeah, there is a great freedom in that.
Mhm. Let me see what else we got. You've shared your parent with the congregation.
Mm,
This is something we've kind of talked about. I mean, because we've got generational pastorship going
yeah,
on.
yeah,
And just like there's generational trauma, I also feel like there's religious trauma that can be passed down generationally
yeah,
and even like pastoral generational issues.
yeah.
Um, I know with dad, he's had his own lessons that he's learned from his father before him
Yeah.
and boundary setting that has to take place as a pastor.
Can I just say that my dad, was saved in his mid to late 20s, probably late 20s. He wasn't really raised in the church and he didn't have a dad. His dad was killed when he was young, but he was incredible at that. I never felt like I was second place to his ministry.
Well,
Never felt that way. He just had an incredible way of being there.
hmm,
I mean, he would take me to my piano lessons every week and sit there and listen to me go through the lesson and play and practice. And then whenever I would go down to the church
mhm.
to do my practice times, and he would just come sit on the front pew and listen to me practice.
That's so sweet.
I never felt second.
Yeah. I think that is really rare
It
among
is.
pastors' kids.
It is.
I think that's a spiritual attack, to be honest.
I would agree with
I think that A pastor can be serving a congregation and be walking in the spirit with them
But neglect
and
his family.
neglect his children, and his children learn that God is neglectful through their father's example.
Yeah.
And they walk away from the church easier because of the absent father they've had.
I would agree with that. I think that we have really we're not perfect as
Yeah.
your parents, but we really tried to purpose to not have that impression. We wanted you all to love the ministry, love God, of course, first of all. But it's a struggle. And, talking about my dad, I think that he wanted to be a good dad because he didn't have one. And I think that's probably why that was at the forefront of his mind.
Right. When I was at university and I would sit in on the theology courses, you've got all these Christian studies majors.
I saw the eye roll.
We got all these Christian studies majors, and usually a lot of them were these dudes that were hyped up on knowledge and wanting to know all the things. And it was rare to hear when they would address like the preacher boys, it was rare to hear about prioritizing your family.
Interesting.
And I remember there was one person in particular, and it was actually our ethics class. One of my favorites, one of my favorite professors. And he was the one that said, whenever you're going into ministry, because there were some elements with Christian ethics, and he's like, here's one of the situations that I do want to address. Your first ministry is your family.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to hear that a lot, unfortunately, if you go into theology or if you go into greater walks of education, because it's going to be about knowledge. But if you don't have love,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can say all those things, but if you don't have love.
Yeah.
And for your family is your first ministry. So I think
Yeah, we could go into all
that's a whole
that one too.
conversation.
We're not going to do that.
I think there's a few that are coupled in here. We've kind of touched on, but I like the way it's worded.
Okay.
It says, you understand that criticism can hit your home address. And you know what it feels like to hear your family discussed in the lobby.
Oh.
We can't relate to those.
Yeah.
I hate that.
And it's such a shame. Most of the time, the man that is called has a heart to serve, and he has a heart for God.
Yeah.
And these very people that he's trying to minister to are the ones that are at warfare.
Right.
We should be united together to have warfare against our enemy, the devil,
there should be
not
unity.
each other.
And I know like pastors all over the world have failed.
Oh, yeah.
They have failed.
I mean, you want to say, people, do you not recognize that your pastor has a big old target on his back?
Right.
You should not be one of the ones that's shooting at him.
Yes, you should be praying. I mean, it's a Moses situation. He needs his arms to be raised.
Yes.
Because there is a fight going on.
Yeah.
And I think that unfortunately things become petty. And it goes to Paul when he's like, put away that disputing among you. That is not of God.
Yeah.
Matthew 18 principles. A lot of even a whole conversation could be on how we handle conflict or don't handle conflict in the church. Right?
Yeah. And we sweep things under the rug because we don't want to deal with sin.
Yikes.
Yeah.
The last one here, I think to put a little bit of a positive, you develop resilience and often emotional intelligence. It says beyond your years. I won't give us that. I mean,
I do think that's true, though. You also develop an empathy and a love for people because you see their suffering, and you see your dad or your husband spending time in prayer and agonizing over these people.
Yeah. I'll say this, and it's not to like discredit you, of course. And I think you know that. But I think for people listening, my mom is a very loving person. And obviously that's why we're doing this podcast.
Thank you.
But I think watching dad have his pastor's heart.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was like, why do you care about these people so much? If you'd stop caring just a little bit, you would feel a lot better. And the amount of times as a pastor's kid, I was like, I will be glad whenever he's not a pastor anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen him suffer and hurt too much by people that he loves, right? But his pastor's heart has taught me so much about shepherding, about patience, about grace. He is such a big heart walking around,
He is.
and he loves people.
Yeah.
He loves people, and he wants them to be loved by God.
Yeah.
In realizing how much
Yeah.
they can have freedom in their lives. And that is really what we've talked about previously, of that hope and grief together.
Mhm.
He really, as a pastor, is tapping into this heart of God. And when we talked about in Romans 8, our suffering, I think pastors have a specific role as sufferers
No, I would
in
agree.
ministry.
That's why they're given a special crown.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, all of that to say, really, I mean, if
Yeah.
you are a pastor's kid out there,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
club,
Yes.
you're part of the club, the
Yep.
PK club.
Yep.
We embrace you. We love you. And you can relate, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd love to
You know,
hear some stories.
I would love to
I've
hear
heard some
some
trauma
trauma
stories.
stories.
I remember
Yeah.
hearing a story about a preacher's daughter. They were living in the parsonage
Okay.
of the church. Bless them. And she was in their bathroom taking a bath, and one of their church members walked in on her.
What did she do?
I don't know, but I mean, hello?
She just blacked out at that point.
Probably what under the water.
Baptized in shame.
I mean, the
Like,
stories.
it's crazy out here. You know, we laugh about these things. We talk about the religious trauma. We're still part of ministry.
Yeah.
We still serve.
Right.
And some people have been so burned. We have been burned.
And listen, I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. There have been times that I wanted to be like, that's it. I'm
Yep.
done.
You turn the lights off like your brother did. Yeah.
But I have to recognize my services for him.
Yeah.
He endured so much more.
hmm
And so that's where you have to fix your eyes and not on men. That's what helps you endure. That's what helps
Yeah.
keep you going, because you know your calling.
Yeah.
And you can't walk away from your calling as much as you want to.
Right. And us going to church is us worshiping God.
Yeah.
I'm not there for everybody else.
Exactly.
I am serving
Yeah.
with the heart of Christ.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to really exercise grace more in the church than outside of it. People
Yes.
can be kinder outside of church than in it.
Yes. You're right.
And I know that so many people, even with COVID, people were able to slip away from church
Yeah.
and find a million reasons not to go back
Right.
because, well, you know how the people are.
Right.
God's got to change hearts. That's what
Yes.
church is for.
God created this environment for us to come together and encourage one another. The Bible talks about how we encourage one another with our psalms and hymns and spiritual songs
Yeah.
when we meet together corporately.
Right. And, you know, the truth is, not all churches are the same, but God is.
Yes.
God is always the same.
Yeah.
And so where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, he is in their midst.
Yes.
That's the point. So I think if you've been burned by church, whether you're a PK or not, find a home church, a church that you're like, this is where God dwells.
Yeah. Take your eyes off of what's around you
Yeah.
and focus it on who you're there for.
Yeah. Because over the years, we could have found a trillion reasons to walk away.
Yeah.
But we kept going every time because we were there to serve God
Yeah.
and love God through our worship.
Yes.
Over time, God has changed the hearts
Yeah.
of people. I love our church.
Yeah.
I love our church families. Shout out Margaret.
Yes, Margaret.
And I think that that's really the goal, is pray over where you're supposed to go to church. I mean, talk to God and say, God, I've been burned by church. I struggle. I've been hurt by people that are saying that they're supposed to love you, but you love me. Would you direct me to a place where they love
I
me?
totally agree because, I mean, let's face it, the Bible talks about people that are ministering that are wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
You have to be discerning. Just because he says he's the pastor, and I'm not, this is really hard for me to talk about in such a way because I'm so united to being involved with pastors. But it's true. I mean, I myself know whenever I'm interacting with certain ones, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't feel good about this one.
Yep.
You know, you have to be discerning.
Yes. You're right.
Yeah,
And so I think that's really what it's about. It's not every church is the same, but God is.
correct.
So if you're finding your way back to God, God has never left you.
Yes.
God didn't abandon you whenever you left the church. God went with you when you left the church. So ask Him to guide you where to go again.
Yeah.
Open your heart back up because church is about just like what they did back in the day and they went to the temple. It was to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Through songs, through reflection, through community. We cannot do our spiritual walk alone. And if you think that you can, you are buying into a lie from Satan
Correct.
to keep you isolated and
Yes.
struggle, because that is not what we are called to.
Yeah. Can I say preach?
Yes.
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 It's true.
If you go into church and you are consumed by what you think is judgment from other people, then that is a distraction from Satan for you to not come back.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Satan uses the very people that should be not used by Satan, that should run far from it.
Yeah.
The very people I have been hurt by the most have been the people that say they believe in God.
Yeah.
That should not be. These things should not be, but they are. And is that a reflection on God?
No.
No.
But the point is we're in a place where it's a bunch of flawed people.
Yeah.
We're going to do things and say things that hurt others. Should not be, but it's the reality because, again, it's the groaning.
Yes.
I think that's a good place to end there.
I think so.
We brought it all together.
Yay! Nice! Woohoo! We did it. Look at us PKs go.
Yes.
Even if you're not a pastor's kid, maybe you know a pastor's kid. Maybe you've just been burned in church. Maybe you find pastors' kids as cringe as homeschool kids. Whatever it is, that's fine.
It's legitimate.
It's a little cringy. But I hope you gain something from it. I mean, even just talking about church and how people are hurt by it. Maybe you're in church and you've never even thought about the pastor's family. Think about the pastor's family. They need prayer. They really need prayer. I mean, reach out to your pastor's family and say,
Can I just,
I'm praying for you.
You're on a little, we're going off on a rabbit trail. I thought we were closing this, but what you're saying is so true. Because how many times does the pastor he's the one that's honored and he deserves it. I'm not criticizing that. But what about recognizing his family?
Yeah.
On his children's birthday, giving them a little something.
Yeah.
Just to say, hey, I see you. It's true.
Right.
The pastor's wife, people do not understand all that she does behind the scenes to support him.
Right.
And encourage him when he comes home feeling defeated because this happened or someone was critical or whatever. Yeah. And she has to be that support to lift him up.
Right. I do think that being able to show that appreciation to the pastor's family, because we've been in places where the pastor who's behind the pulpit is not the man in the home.
Yes.
He's not the same man. He has the same spirit working through him and the same struggles and the same love. Like who he is as a pastor is who he is as a person.
Yeah.
But that's on Sunday.
Yeah.
And throughout the day, I mean, this is where people can have horror stories. For me, no.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to God for that. But what the pastor's family sees is the man.
Yes.
They see the man behind the pulpit.
Hurts.
They don't see the role.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to have that perspective and say sometimes people that give for their whole lives can be given to.
Yeah.
And God can place it on your heart to be a blessing to your pastor. And
It's
that
like,
is a gift in and of itself.
yeah.
So, like, pray over that too. I'll say this last point.
Okay.
I promise.
You
Pinky
sure?
promise. None of this is said because we're like, our church needs to give us a gift
No.
card to Chick-fil-A.
God's chicken.
God's
Or
chicken.
God's crafts. Or Coffee Lobby.
It's not because of that. We're saying this because we witnessed it.
Yeah.
We have experienced it in seasons.
Yeah.
Being a pastor's kid is a blessing and a curse. And over the years, it's become more of a blessing.
Yeah.
Because God has individually worked in my life to be able to give from a place not where I'm having to be chosen, as
Right.
people say, but actually I'm contributing now.
Yeah.
And that is really the joy of ministry,
Yes.
is whenever you feel purposeful in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you for our little
listening to our rambling.
ramblings of being PKs. If you'll just subscribe, hit that bell for the notifications, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us.
You are God alone.